In this video, we are going to discuss bipolar disorder. So bipolar disorder is a mood disorder that involves periods of incapacitating depression, alternating with periods of extreme euphoria and excitement. This used to be called manic depression or manic depressive disorder. So it's important to know that episodes can occur at both ends of the spectrum, depression and mania. And a manic episode is defined as a sudden, rapidly escalating emotional state characterized by extreme euphoria, excitement, physical energy, and rapid thought and speech. Now, most people with bipolar disorder will have a manic episode that immediately follows an episode of depression. For others, only manic episodes exist. So while manic is often used to describe people who are very high energy, a true manic episode is much more than that. So what are manic episodes? Well, it's important to know they begin suddenly, and the symptoms escalate rapidly. And it's characterized by traits like uncharacteristic euphoria, boundless energy despite very little sleep, widely inflated self-confidence, grandiose plans for obtaining wealth and power and fame, rapid speech that's hard to interrupt and sometimes slurred. The person is easily distracted. The person will have racing thoughts. They'll have flights of ideas. In other words, thoughts will shift rapidly from one topic to another topic. It also impairs the ability to function. Now, people who have manic episodes, hospitalization is usually required, partially to protect people from the potential consequences of their inappropriate decisions and behaviors. Now, it's not uncommon for those in a manic episode to run up a large amount of bills, become sexually promiscuous, commit illegal acts, or become agitated or verbally abusive when others question their grandiose claims. In one situation, I actually know of a person who was in the middle of a manic episode who had such grandiose ideas and was so impaired that this person actually believed that he could fly. He believed that if he stood on top of a car and jumped off and flapped his wings, his arms, that he would fly because the gods were smiling on him and he would fly. And he jumped off the roof of the car and landed on the ground and broke several bones in his face. These are the kind of things that they may do. They may feel that they are completely invincible, that nothing can stop them and nothing can hurt them. And these are the beliefs that they have. This is why a lot of times people who are going through severe episodes of mania need to be hospitalized. It's for their own protection and to make sure that they stay safe, and also to make sure that they don't do something where they could end up accidentally killing themselves. Now, when we talk about this, we also have to talk about cyclothymic disorder, and it's a milder but more chronic form of bipolar. So a person will experience moderate but frequent mood swings for 2 years or longer. And these mood swings are not enough to qualify as either bipolar or as major depressive disorder. So instead of having the grand swings that you get with bipolar, the extreme emotions, it's a much more gradual and gentle, smaller swinging back and forth of the pendulum, if you will. And it's often described as the people may be described as being extremely moody, unpredictable, and inconsistent. So how prevalent is bipolar disorder? Well, first of all, let's talk about when it can occur. It can occur when a person's in his or her early 20s. And extreme mood swings tend to start and stop much more abruptly than mood changes of major depressive disorder. So episodes of MDD can last 6 months or more. Manic and depressive episodes of bipolar tend to be much shorter. They can last a few days to a few months, but the cycling doesn't occur in minutes or hours. It's not that rapid. Bipolar disorder is far less common than major depressive disorder, but about 9% of those who have at least one depressive episode are eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. There is no difference between sexes in the rate at which bipolar disorder occurs. Both men and women have a 1% chance of developing bipolar disorder in their lifetimes. Bipolar disorder is rarely diagnosed in childhood. They wait until onset in the 20s. And bipolar disorder is a recurring mental disorder. So in other words, if you have an episode where you have the manic episode, you will have that again. They recur. It's cyclic. You will go through the cycle. Now, a small percentage of those with bipolar disorder will display what is called rapid cycling. and that is 4 or more manic or depressive episodes every year for a couple of years. Now, often, bipolar disorder reoccurs when people stop taking their medications. So I want to tell you a quick little story about bipolar disorder and a manic episode. I knew someone who had bipolar and we were actually sitting watching a movie, and it was the movie What Dreams May Come. And if you've never seen it, at the very beginning, there are 2 children who die tragically in a car accident. And this person was in the middle of a manic episode. And when he saw the children die, instead of, as everyone else in the room did, crying and saying, "Oh, that's so sad," he started jumping up and down on the couch, like, "They died! They died! The kids died! Did you see that? The kids died! Isn't that so funny? Oh my God, the kids are dead! The kids are dead!" That was exactly what he sounded like, just manic, off the wall, yelling, shouting, bouncing around the room. The emotions were completely disproportionate to the circumstances. He was in a manic episode, and everything was euphoric. Everything was wonderful. No matter how sad or tragic something was, he viewed it as being exciting and happy and wonderful and euphoric. So that's just to give you a personal example of an experience I had with a friend of mine when I was in high school who was suffering from bipolar. So when we talk about depressive disorders and bipolar disorders, we always want to know, well, okay, what's involved in the development? How do these occur? Well, some of the most common things are genetic predisposition. So through family, twin, and adoption studies, they show that some people actually do inherit a genetic predisposition. Both major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder tend to run in families. Bipolar, however, tends to have a much stronger genetic root than major depressive disorder. Differences have also been found in the activation structures of the brain. One study found that people who are depressed show increased activation in certain parts of the brains when trying to get rid of negative words in their working memories. People who are not depressed had similar activation when trying to rid their mind of positive words. There's also a disruption in brain chemistry. Neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and serotonin have actually been found to have a link to symptoms of depression. Medications called antidepressants have been developed to increase the levels of neurotransmitters in some people, and that can actually help improve symptoms of depression. Neurotransmitters have also been found to have a link to bipolar disorder. Lithium is a common drug prescribed to treat bipolar, and it alleviates symptoms of both depression and mania by regulating the availability of a neurotransmitter called glutamate, which acts as an excitatory neurotransmitter in many brain areas. By normalizing the levels of the glutamate, lithium actually helps to prevent the excess that may cause the mania and the deficits that can cause depression. Stress is also something that can cause major depressive disorder or bipolar disorder. So, remarkably similar changes in neurochemistry of the brain take place with chronic stress and major depressive disorder. As we talked about before, major depressive disorder is often triggered by traumatic and stressful events. So exposure to a recent stressful event is one of the best predictors for an episode of MDD. Research has also uncovered some intriguing links between cigarette smoking and the development of MDD and some other psychological disorders. More on that in a little bit. So if you want to see a chart with all the symptoms of major depressive disorder and all of these we've talked about, you can take a look at table 13.5 on page 522. So did you know that creative geniuses are actually at a higher risk for developing mental illness than other people? So depressive and bipolar disorders occur more frequently among the most creative writers and artists than among the general population. Writer Mark Twain here in the center, novelist Ernest Hemingway, and poet Sylvia Plath all suffered from severe bouts of depression throughout their entire lives. And both Plath and Hemingway committed suicide. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, does smoking cause major depressive disorder and other psychological disorders? And this is in that little side section within your text. So researcher Karen Lasser and her colleagues actually found that people with mental illness are twice as likely to smoke cigarettes as people with no mental illness. People with mental illness are also more likely to be heavy smokers, smoking a pack a day or more. Smokers often report having better attention and concentration, increased energy, lower anxiety, and greater calm after smoking, likely because of the nicotine. Smoking might be being used as a form of self-medication. Now remember, nicotine is a powerful psychoactive drug. It triggers the release of dopamine, and it can stimulate key brain structures involving the production of reward sensations. Nicotine receptors on different neurons also regulate the release of neurotransmitters like serotonin, acetylcholine, GABA, and glutamate. Nicotine also affects multiple brain structures and actually alters the release of many neurotransmitters. These same brain areas and neurotransmitters are also directly involved in many different psychological disorders. Okay, so that wraps up our discussion of the mood disorders.